in another episode of We Try to Tell Y'all. We try to warn y'all. But again, privilege is a hell of a drug. A lot of people didn't care about these things, and then now that things are falling out and coming down the pipeline, even though this is what Project 2025 was all about from day one. So let's talk about it. The Supreme Court was formally asked to overturn the landmark same sex marriage ruling. Now, mind you, we've only had marriage equality for 10 years. It literally happened 10 years ago, June of 2015. Here it is, August of 2025, 10 years later, and they've been formally asked to overturn the landmark same sex peeling. And you know what's crazy? Remember that homophobic county clerk, Kim Davis? She's the one that formally formally asked to have it overturned. So, if you remember, Kim Davis is a former clerk who refused gay couples. She's the one who brought the appeal. This is being brought to me by ABC News, and then, of course, I'll have additional links and information in the description box. 10 years after the Supreme Court extended marriage rights to same sex couples nationwide, the justices this fall will consider for the first time whether to take up a case that explicitly asked them to overturn that decision. Kim Davis, the former Kentucky county clerk, who was jailed for 6 days in 2015 after refusing to issue marriage licenses to a gay couple on religious grounds, is appealing a $100,000 jury verdict for emotional damages plus $260,000 for attorney fees. First of all, what emotional damage? The fact that you are a homophobic bigot? In a petition for writ of certiorari filed last month, Kim Davis argues First Amendment protection for free exercise of religion immunizes her from personal liability for the denial of marriage licenses. You're working for a public elected position. Your personal religious beliefs do not matter when you are working in an elected position. Hate to break it to you. And what gets me about this religious freedom bullshit is that it only pertains to Christians. Let's just be real. Because when when other people who are not Christian want to have freedom to express themselves, all of a sudden I don't get to be openly intersex, trans, gay, queer. I can't be an agnostic humanist. No freedom of religion for me. But when it comes to your Christian ass, all of a sudden we have to make sure that you get to say and do whatever you want because you're Christian. Because that's basically what this religious freedom bullshit is. Let's just keep it real. It's just, hey, I don't agree with you having rights and freedoms because my archaic ideology and belief, even though there is no proof that Jesus even existed, let alone a God. But that's a whole nother video. Because oddly enough, it's always the religious folks that are committing the most heinous acts of crimes and violence against other human beings and society. It's always the so-called religious thumpers that are your child molesters, your rapists, your serial killers, your cheaters, yeah. Your murderers, your mass shooters, yeah. Anyways, more fundamentally, she claims the High Court's decision in Obergefell and Hodges extended marriage rights for same-sex couples under the 14th Amendment due to process protections, quote, was egregiously wrong. Quote, the mistake must be corrected, wrote Davis attorney Matthew Staver in the petition he calls Justice Anthony Kennedy's majority opinions in Obergefell a legal fiction. The petition appears to mark the first time since 2015 that the court has been formally asked to overturn the landmark marriage decision. Davis is seen as one of the only Americans currently with legal standing to bring a challenge to the president. Quote, if there ever was a case of exceptional importance, Staver wrote, the first individual in Republic's history who was jailed for following her religious convictions regarding the historic definition of marriage, this should be it. Lower courts have dismissed Davis' claims, and most legal experts consider her bid a long shot. A federal appeals court panel concluded earlier this year that the former clerk cannot raise the First Amendment as a defense because she is being held liable for state action, which the First Amendment does not protect. Davis, as the Rowan County clerk in 2015, was the sole authority tasked with issuing marriage licenses on behalf of the government under state law. Quote, not a single judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals showed any interest in Davis' rehearing petition, and we are confident the Supreme Court will likewise agree that Davis' arguments do not merit further attention. Quote, said William Powell, attorney for David Ermel and David Moore, the now married Kentucky couple that sued Davis for damages in a statement to ABC News. A renewed campaign to reverse a legal precedent. Now, keep in mind, I'm going to keep talking about this because for the longest, when transgender people were the first on the chopping block, thrown under the bus, scapegoated for everything going wrong in the country, in the world, even though trans people are not the reason you can't afford groceries, not the reason you can't become a homeowner, not the reason you can't afford rent, not the reason you can't pay your bills, not the reason you're not being paid a living wage. That is typically, it's going to be a shocker, but that's typically white, cisgendered, heterosexual males with money who are making your life a living hell. Go figure. But, as usual, let's scapegoat all of our problems on a marginalized group that has less rights and freedoms than I do. Wow. Davis' appeal to the Supreme Court comes as a conservative opponents of marriage rights for same-sex couples pursued a renewed campaign to reverse that legal precedent and allow each state to set its own policy. At the time Obergefell was decided in 2015, 35 states had statutory or constitutional bans on same-sex marriages, according to the National Conference of State Legislatures. Only 8 states had enacted laws explicitly allowing the unions. So far in 2025, at least 9 states have either introduced legislation aimed at blocking new marriage licenses for LGBTQIA plus people, or passed resolutions urging the Supreme Court to reverse Obergefell at the earliest opportunity, according to the advocacy group Lambda Legal. So again, a lot of you cis queers who didn't care about trans folks, you are now being thrown to the wolves. And once again, as an intersex trans man who likely will never get married, I still don't think that's okay. Because whether I get married or not, I believe everyone should have the opportunity to get married to the love of their life, pertaining that they are consenting adults. The fact that we have to say consenting adults is really sad. They want to ban gay marriage. They want to take away marriage equality, but they have no problem with a 40-year-old man impregnating a 12-year-old girl. That's your Christianity for you. That's the hypocrisy. That's your patriarchy and misogyny and homophobia and transphobia all wrapped up to create white Christian nationalism. And that's exactly what we're dealing with. Welcome to Project 2025. This information, again, will be in the description box below. But we have been sounding the alarms for a while, but of course, I'm not trans, so it doesn't bother me. Now they're coming for your cis queer ass and all of your so-called marriages. I don't know how y'all think we're going to ever get to liberation. for the LGBTQIA plus community, for the gay queer community, for the rainbow alphabet gang community. I don't really get how we're ever going to get here when we're not coming together to fight for each other's rights, freedoms, lives. You can't pick and choose who's going to get rights and who's not. You're either for liberation or you're not. And that's really, and you got to remember all of these cis white gays who literally, gays for Trump. You know, I'm a log cabin Republican. Right, supporting your own demise. How is that working for you? Because a lot of you white cis gays are married. And if this goes through, you're not going to be married. And it's deeper than marriage. It's so much more to it than just the marriage in itself. Okay? Being able to see a loved one and to make decisions for the person that you've been living with your entire life, say if they get sick and they're no longer able to make those decisions, with that marriage, you have a say-so. Where prior to 2015, it didn't matter that you and Tommy were together for 30 years. His family would make decisions on his behalf and completely disrespect you, disown you, and you wouldn't even be allowed to attend the funeral of your loved one, of the love of your life, prior to 2015. So I'm just, again, people think everything is a joke. They think everything is fake. They think everything is position. You know, it's not going to happen. Fat meat isn't greasy until it happens. Then everyone's standing around looking crazy. Oh, I can't believe this. Meanwhile, the signs have been there this entire time. Privilege is a hell of a drug. That's all I'm going to say on that. Support for equal marriage rights. While a strong majority of Americans favor equal marriage rights, support appears to have softened in the recent years, according to Gallup. 60% of Americans supported same-sex marriage in 2015, rising to 70% support in 2025, but the level has plateaued since 2020. Among Republicans, support has notably dipped over the past decade, down from 55% in 2021 to 41% in 2025. And a lot of this is MAGA, Make America Great Again, Trump, right? Like that whole right-wing side of things, like it is what it is. They do not want non-white cis het men with money who better be heterosexual and Christian. You better be all of those things in that order with money. Anybody else that doesn't fit that, they don't want us to have any rights or freedoms. I just think you all need to start understanding that. Instead of thinking, oh, but I'm cis, so I'm going to be okay, but you're gay. You're not going to be okay. You know, oh, but I'm white, but you're broke. You're a working class, working poor white person. Trump ain't thinking about your poor ass either. A lot of y'all are forgetting, like I said before, you can be marginalized and you can have privileges all at the same time. And a lot of y'all think that your privileges are going to somehow overturn the fact that you're marginalized in various other aspects of who you are. And I'm here to tell you, a lot of you are finding out the hard way. It doesn't matter that you're cis when you're gay. Doesn't matter that you have money when you're a woman. Doesn't matter that you're white when you're broke. You're still going to suffer. You're still going to be discriminated against, harassed, oppressed, and treated like shit by this society. And instead of coming together with other people who are also being oppressed and marginalized, we're sitting up divided and conquered, fighting amongst each other, while the rich and the wealthy continue to control the show. Wake up, people. This is crazy. Davis' petition urges the issue of marriage should be treated the same way the court handled the issue of abortion in 2022, which Roe versus Wade was overturned at the federal level, and it went back down to the states. So a lot of this is going to boil down to states' rights. And mind you, this is what they're saying currently. Ruling, if it happened, wouldn't invalidate existing marriages. If the ruling were to overturn at some point in the future, it would not invalidate marriages already performed. Legal experts have pointed out the 2022 Respect for Marriage Act requires the federal government and all states to recognize legalized marriages of same-sex and interracial couples performed in any state, even if there is a future change in the law. Davis first appealed the Supreme Court in 2019, seeking to have the damages suit against her tossed out, but her petition was rejected. Conservative Justice Thomas and Samuel Alito concurred with the decision at that time in 2019. So, something to think about. There is an estimated 823,000 married same-sex couples in the U.S., including 591,000 that wed after the Supreme Court decision in June 2015, according to the Williams Institute at UCLA Law School. Nearly 1 in 5 of those married couples is parenting a child under 18. Again, information will be in the description box below. I don't want to say get married if you're looking to get married, but that might be something you want to focus on, because honestly, we don't know how long that right, that freedom is going to exist for queer LGBTQIA plus people. Me personally, like I said earlier, I probably will never, ever get married, because in order to be married, you have to have a healthy, sustaining relationship long term to begin with. And let's be real here, for me, I just don't see that ever happening, so it's never really been a goal of mine. However, I want other people to have those rights, to have those freedoms, to decide to love and get married to another consenting adult. Okay? More information will be in the description box below, but a lot of what we're dealing with was outlined in Project 2025. This has been their intention, their goal this entire time. So we're going to have to continue to speak up, hold our elected officials accountable, vote their asses out if they're not representing you correctly. And in some cases, some of us, we need to run for elected positions. Because again, who's better to represent us than people that are from our community in the first place? So it's going to be on us to really be vocal about this. And again, it's time to get serious. Everything is not a pop the balloon, or who's on the DL. Like, there's so much more going on that actually impacts our lives than pop the balloon and who's on the DL. I'm just being real. When you see some of the content that some of us are creating consistently, and that's all we talk about, meanwhile we're losing our rights and freedoms, and in some cases losing our lives, I'm just saying we got to have a better balance of what we're talking about, y'all, because shit is real. The as they say, the shit has officially hit the fan. It has hit the fan.